This is it. Okay.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Bad Science Sunday, where we take a comedic approach to debunking bad science on the internet. And we have two guests tonight, which are Omnivore.
Hello.
All right. What's the elevator pitch?
Well, I have a quite a depth of knowledge about people, who have no epistemology. My expertise is more in the political realm than flat Earth, but I have been,
Same.
some time ago introduced to flat Earth, and it's similar. I find it similar because there's like two separate realities, and probably now far more than two. And so we're winding up living in, and if you go to these spaces, flat Earth kind of turns the dial over about as far as you can turn it. But it's the same effect where people don't agree on what basic facts are. They don't agree on what science is or how it works. And there's people who are living in this wash of conspiracy theory. And like I said, I think that's more there's a political valence to that, but this is definitely the science version of it.
Yeah. Do you have a channel or
I do not have a channel.
anything
I
you
hang
wanna
out on
share?
Globe Gangsters.
I can probably
Little
get a link.
gangsters.
Actually.
Globe
It's a Discord.
Gangsters
Globe
Discord.
gangsters.
Yeah, we can put a link in there.
Yeah, I can do
Yeah, I
that.
have no idea what that is. If it was a flurf thing, I would not know about it. Flat Earth just makes me violently want to punch people in the throat. And it's just been a I don't know, mentally debilitating week. So it's going to be you guys for most of the stream because I'm not sure my mental health can take Trump and flat Earth in the same in a 7 day span. That being said, Al,
Hey,
what's the elevator pitch?
how's it going, Maya? My elevator pitch.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Al Trucker, and I make fun of people with songs. And then when I'm not singing songs, making fun of people, I tell everyone that we should learn to be nice and get along with one another
Yeah,
because
fuck
we're all
that
just
shit.
people. We're all just people. Well, I tend to call out people who I think are. Has the timer been on long enough for me to say asshole?
We're not. Yeah, no, we don't get
I don't.
any of that shit. So
I don't like. I don't like assholes. I don't like
yeah,
assholes. And I'm a trucker, so I know a lot of rude words. In fact, all the words I know are rude.
yeah. No, which is cool. We do a lot of quote unquote rude words here, which is no slurs.
Yeah.
Uh,
No slurs. No. I'm not here to hate. I'm not here to hate people for being who they are. I'm here to tell haters that they should stop. That's kind of my thing. And I'm also a truck driver for my regular job.
Oh, real quick. Mark Agamotto celebrates 6 months as a cultist. Welcome, welcome. And also, we have Blonde Scheller, who is back for her second month. Couldn't get enough of us. Thank you, thank you. Both of you, please continue to enjoy your tapioca weasels, your vaginas, and your nitties. And speaking of the person of the night, happy birthday, Doc.
Thank you. I'm 33 years old. I feel like I should just go all in on the Jesus look this year, you know. But yeah, I'm excited for the show because we're finally doing Flat Earth. I've wanted to do Flat Earth for so long, and Maya never lets me do Flat Earth.
No, so. When I say it, like, makes me violently angry. Like, I'm not kidding. But I do want to say, Ember, thank you for the raid. Welcome in, everybody. You're just in time for the shit show. So let's flurf off.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's gonna be great. All right. So we're going straight into the gutter, folks. The title of the video is Gravity Debunked in 5-Minute Challenge. We might get through this video, in which case I have a series of shorter, bite-sized horror shows for you later. But this is from our friend Flatzoid. And if you don't know Flatzoid,
you're happy.
Yeah, your life is probably about to take a turn for the worse, so you're welcome for that. And Flatzoid has a 4.39 thousand subscribers, so it's not that many. And this video came out yesterday, has 405 views. So let's see if we can beat that, because that'd be awesome. Yeah. And so, have either of you guys ever talked with Flatzoid?
I have very briefly interacted with him. When Sea Lion was on his show, he's another one of these guys from Discord. He was on the show with him. They were having a debate, and I was in the, I was on the stage. I had a little bit of interaction with him there. But I've seen enough of his shows so to understand kind of how he operates.
Yeah.
He's a reasonably well-known flat earther, and he doesn't have a particularly special take on it, but he hits all the highlights. The outer space violates some law of thermodynamics. All airplanes fly over flat level non-rotating surfaces, things like that. So it's all the standard stuff, but Flatzoid is especially smug about it.
Oh, that will become clear. So yeah, this is our friend Flatzoid. Did you have something you wanted to say, Al?
Yeah, I did. I just wanted to point out that there's a bingo. There's a flat Earth bingo, and I posted it in the other chat thing. And I know Maya can't handle it, but hopefully she can post a bingo. Because I can't figure out how to do that from here. Because I don't know how to use your slick thing here.
I don't blame anybody for not being able to handle it, but I will say that I think that this mode of thinking, if not flat Earth itself, is going to get more and more relevant. I don't think it's something that if you look at as kind of the furthest iteration of this sort of thing, I think it's got relevance. So
I agree.
Yep, we could definitely.
And I'll wait until you've swallowed whatever you're eating.
Meatball.
Flatzoid, the challenge set forth is: can you disprove gravity in 5 minutes? Why a pen drops on the floor?
So, what do you guys think are his odds of success here?
Well, so his odds of success are 0 to somebody who understands what gravity is supposed to be, and 100 for people who have no idea what it's supposed to be and are going to listen to the most knowledgeable sounding, very super simple explanation they can get.
Fair enough.
You wait until you cleared your mouth. And okay, on your marks, get set, go.
Displacement ratio. There we go.
Displacement pressure. That disproves gravity.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it was nice to see you guys tonight. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's going to be a short
and, what are you covering, Maya? Have you picked the video yet?
I'm gonna float away.
I mean, yeah, I'm convinced. I'm absolutely convinced.
Well, it's actually very simple.
What we're going to see here is in a second when you play it, is going to be the lesson in how it's difficult to communicate a complicated scientific theory or position. However, the simple form of it can be easily questioned, and an alternate hypothesis that's not in any way correct can sound almost as good if you just go with the simple common science explainer routine to people, and they're very dubious it doesn't work.
Yeah. So fundamentally, he thinks that it's all about density and buoyancy.
That's standard,
This
yes.
little stand. Oh, you see, it's actually very simple. Let's, for instance, take this little stand for a camera. You would agree that this thing is heavier than the air around it,
Yes.
Yeah.
and air is unable to support it.
That's a key one. They don't always remember to include that one, and if they don't, then like styrofoam wins most of the arguments. But he did remember to include it. Like packing peanuts can support. Why that is, I don't know.
Because they've got friction and compression and
Yeah.
Yeah. Because physics works in more than just one way. There isn't just one little piece of physics that works at one time. Which I think is the biggest problem flirts have in general, is they can understand one concept at a time, and once you add the second one or even half of another one, their brains implode.
that is somewhat true. I mean, there's usually a limit where you can get agreement on what the physical truth is, and the closer and closer you get to actually explain to them that their position can't be correct or is not correct, at some point you hit a wall where it gets close to the breaking point, and then the flat earther will generally disengage at that point, or you'll get banned or kicked off or whatever. That's a pretty common pattern.
The Australians call it chucking a wobbly.
Well,
at least I think they do.
I mean,
does this have anything to do with drop bears?
It might. Chucking a wobbly, I think, is it might be an old expression because I'm an old man.
It sounds like a euphemism.
I think it is. Chucking a wobbly, and it's not chucking a wallaby. That would be throwing another Australian. Chucking a wobbly is when you lose your shit on people, and that's what flurfers do. Almost always when they realize that they're about to be shown to be non compos mentis.
Well, let's be clear. There are plenty of not polite globers.
Well, I'm one of them.
The opposite, but
I'm a stock and trade.
But there is, the globe generally does not have a level to which you can look at agreement. You can look at agreement with science, and you don't have to stop anywhere. You don't have to say, okay, I cannot conceive beyond this, or it will, it'll break me.
Yeah.
But
Heavier than the air around it,
Yeah.
and air is unable to support it.
Yeah.
So,
Duh.
if I let it go and nothing can support it, there is only one direction it can go. That's
Why?
But what? Why would it go any other direction? There's a lot of other directions, including the one with less dense air, right up above it.
It's yesterday was my actual birthday.
Happy birthday, Top.
Thank you. It's the only direction they want it to go. If they want to treat down as just a brute fact, I can understand that on some level. Like eventually the why question, you eventually have to reach an end somewhere. And with gravity, like the way the world actually works, if you ask why does mass cause gravitational attraction, you can appeal to the models, you can appeal to general relativity, but then if you ask why is that true, maybe you can appeal one or two layers deeper, but eventually you're gonna hit like the thing. But there's no effort to put a model that will actually give you anything other than the most broad strokes. That of course it's gonna fall down. Everybody knows stuff falls down. Like, yeah, we get it.
Well, they'll usually say, because I displaced it from its original downward, position, and it wants to return to that original downward area. which doesn't explain why in Cavendish experiments things move sideways instead of up and down, or I mean, it doesn't.
Yeah.
But it sounds really good for 2 seconds, and what the way that conspiracy theory works is that it goes after a conventional narrative and tries to create a gray space of doubt where you don't know, who knew about the 9/11 before it happened, or you're not certain, what would happen if I dropped a metal piece through a coiled, copper wire, something like that. There are, what you want to do is create doubt, and then the conspiracy theory flows in to try to fill it. You don't know why the moon looks like that. Well, it's obvious. We didn't actually go. It's all special effects. So, if you can create that doubt, then you have a ready-made conspiratorial answer that the person who hears it will, if they feel that doubt, they'll naturally slot that in.
Yep.
And because this is all somewhat monetized, there's huge incentive to keep that, to keep a level of credibility with the credulous.
Yeah, and I think also that the confidence that he exudes really is attractive to some people. Al, you had a conversation with our friend Mr. Slave the other day, and I remember how one of the people who was like observing that conversation was listening to the video that he was covering about Sabina, and they were like, I don't really know what's going on. I'm making my conclusions based off of vibes and energies, and I was like,
wow. Yeah. That's not a key way to get your. Yeah, but this guy Flatzoid, and I've never interacted with him. Like, I've never had a conversation with him in like a Discord server or anything like that. But I've been back and forth with him on a couple of YouTube chats, like after the fact, and I have told him that he is an absolutely unbelievably deranged idiot. And please don't stop, because I laugh so hard at some of the stuff he says. But that's where we've left our conversations. He's gotten really nasty with people because he is one of the people that, chucks a wobbly when you tell him that you're going away with the ball and not letting him play with it anymore.
Yeah.
People like that. But he's a combination of hilarious and hateful bigot, which is one of the difficulties with a lot of flirts. I don't think this video brings that to light as much as other ones do, but these people are
that's true. Yeah,
these people are all mired in this idea that somebody's out to get them. That seems to be like the biggest thing, and they're selling people that they know the truth, and people want to be in on that. I've heard this over and over again. I have trouble understanding why you'd want to be in on a lie, but I guess if you pretend all the people that are dealing with reality are lying, then you can join this little. It's kind of like a cult, but it's not a cohesive cult, so it's a bunch of little cults. It's fun, but it's
you would do it because you're fucking stupid, right? And this is the one little thing that makes you feel not as stupid as you actually fucking are.
That's a good point, Maya.
It's a very good point, because I made it, so it's the best point.
Also,
Left-Handed Jedi did gift us 10 new cultists, and those went to Lisa is a blogger, Wig, Northern Chimp, Spooky Bed Hair, and that was a really great I don't know, was it aim shot? There you go. Triceratops Australia is some Latin guy. Tom, Don Giovanni, Thalaka Leon Kennedy, Scott Stanton, Brilliant, Palm Dad, Jillian, Flappy Ribs Wren. Jillian, love you. Seriously, if you ever want to be here, hit me up. Welcome all of you, and welcome back most of you. Please enjoy your tapioca weasels, your nitties, and vaginas.
And to be clear, this is a proper cult. Okay, Flat Earth might not be a cult. The Weasel cult, full on.
This is a real cult. Yeah. This is the real deal. Yeah. Not like the fractured after the 7 levels of schism in the Flurfitude, and when Flurftopia like split into the 7 different shards. I think there should be a movie about someone trying to reconnect them. And I don't know who's gonna operate the Muppets that are like Austin Whitsitt and Flatzoid, but like I'd love to see it.
Down, because it displaces the air around it. It's the same as if you go and climb in a swimming pool, you are able to displace your weight so you can float, which they call buoyancy.
I mean, I'm pretty sure you also call it buoyancy. So,
Interesting fact, Archimedes' principle predates gravity by 1,900 years.
this is a remarkably stupid point, in my opinion.
They think science has corrupted the Archimedes principle
Yeah,
by adding in gravity.
The point that he's making is that you don't need gravity to explain things falling down, which I don't agree with, but it doesn't. Buoyancy is explained by gravity. The fact that you have that different downward forces and that you can tell if something is going to be buoyant on whether or not it displaces more or less weight, which is gravity. Weight is gravity. That's what weight is. Mass is not gravity. Subtle distinction there. But just because gravity wasn't or a formula and a law of gravity wasn't established, everybody knew things fell down. But yeah. But for example, boats were around way before Archimedes' principle. That doesn't mean that's not how they work.
yeah. But also, can I just say something that I feel like fits right into what you said? But Archimedes, when he got into the bathtub, was there a downward vector to his movement?
I mean, that depends on the electrostatic potential in the room, obviously.
All right.
For all we know, it was an upward vector, and he disproved it using a Van de Graaff generator.
He probably did. I bet if he took a bath with a Van de Graaff generator, which and the Van de Graaff generator disproved Archimedes' principle, like I think 2,500 years after Archimedes.
Yeah, I would not suggest taking a bath with a Van de Graaff generator.
No.
Basically because it's an electrical thing, not because specifically of what it is. If it was well insulated, it would like technically maybe be like okay, but don't do that. Don't bring electrical stuff into your bathtub. Toaster would be way more dangerous though.
If you have pure water.
Yeah.
Do you know you have pure water and that you don't have? And the other thing is, don't take a bath with a toaster in a cast iron tub with galvanized pipes.
I mean, I feel like you could stop after the toaster bit and it's still sound advice.
I don't think any of that's a best practice. Yeah.
Well, one of many things you should not do with a toaster in a bathtub.
What?
Weird how that works.
It's interesting.
So, did we have ships sailing on the ocean before Newton decided to create gravity?
We had ships sailing on the ocean before we had Archimedes explaining buoyancy.
Yeah.
So how did
Did they
those
have gravity in
float?
the equation?
Sorry.
How did the ships float? Like, how did they displace the water to have their buoyancy?
Oh,
By
aliens?
I don't know.
I think it's aliens.
PC just suggested it might be magnets. Was it magnetism?
it's probably
You
magnets.
sail a boat on a magnetic field? Andy, can you please let us know? I'm a little confused about this.
It's got to be magnets.
You are a magnetician? A magnetisium? What is it you're called?
I'm an anti-magnetologist.
An anti-magnetologist. That's it. Okay.
We need more of those.
Thank you. Yes, we do.
You need to take off that weird sweatery thing so that we can see your, because you're wearing white under the white, and so it just looks like you're Magneto.
Wearing white under the white. This is
Like
not
your
white.
your name tag. No, your name tag.
Oh,
Your name
that.
tag
Yeah,
is
no, that's
white
true.
on you.
Actually,
We
that's
need
a good point.
contrast to see your name tag.
Well, also, it hasn't been here most of the time, so
I don't
yeah,
even
there's
think
that.
I have a name tag. I didn't know I could make one.
Yeah,
Oh no, my
see,
name's there. Oh, look at that.
it's Maya in the background being like, "Why do I have to take care of these children?" I mean, me. Like, yeah. So
She's been wondering this a long, long time.
she has.
equations. This is why we are able to see a cargo ship with thousands of tons floating on the ocean, because it is able to displace based on surface area. It's just got to do with the
And volume.
density ratio to the medium. Even when
That was like the core of what he was saying there. Since the last time we paused, was like correct.
Yes.
It's not actually about the surface area, it's about volume, displaced volume. Which is, a pretty big difference. But like,
but
I'm a very charitable weasel, so.
well, and this is, like I said, this is how you sell people, on a line that has very little to do with scientific understanding, but people understand, oh, it's denser and it's big, so yeah, it sounds like he knows what he's talking about. I mean,
when the Globies try and do experiments, they'd never ever manipulate gravity, because you can't manipulate gravity. The independent variable in a scientific experiment is always the presumed cause that has to be manipulated to get the outcome, which would be the dependent variable.
So the huge misunderstanding is that the independent variable has a cause and effect relationship with the dependent variable, but
It's also, yeah.
But there's nothing that says it has to be the cause. So, like, if you're measuring how well people do on a test and you have different temperatures in the rooms, it's not like temperature causes good test scores. It's that, temperature has an effect on test scores.
Yeah, but if you put the temperature at 300 degrees, the test scores are not going to be good. If you put it at negative 40 degrees, the test scores are not going to be good. But it would be silly to say that exactly there's a causal relationship between temperature and test scores.
Right. It's not like the temperature is taking the test. It just has an influence. So it's a misunderstanding about how what science requires.
It's also
what
this it's also this very limited sort of view where they have to fit their idea of scientific experiment into such a rigidly constructed framework that independent and dependent variables, yeah, that's definitely a thing. He's about to demonstrate, though, he doesn't really know what that means. If a scientific experiment is useful if it gives you, I mean, this is circular what I'm about to say, but it's useful if it gives you useful information. That information doesn't necessarily have to fit into this exact pattern that you learned in 7th grade science class with the scientific method. The scientific method is a very sort of general, it's more general than a series of exactly 8 steps that you have to word this way. Sometimes you come up with a hypothesis after finding the data. That doesn't mean it's illegitimate.
I was just going to say, a lot of the way it was taught to me is that a lot of the earliest experiments, because I actually took a course in high school called Science and Society, which was a lot about how early scientists came about what they figured out. It was more about the history behind the science as opposed to the math and experiments. And so they talk a lot about what it is, what triggered them to say, "Hey, I see a thing. Why is that?" and now we have better and better ways of testing and seeing why something is, and we have more and more established knowledge behind our science. I don't understand why people that are like, it's a combination of those that are anti-education and anti what they call mainstream education. Well, really what they mean is they're anti-reality, because by and large, people teaching things in schools are teaching real things, right? We're not teaching our kids nonsense. And the people that are teaching nonsense are the ones most often trying to preface that by saying that reality isn't real, and flurfs and yeks seem to intersect a lot, and they seem to intersect on this like mistrust of what you're being taught in school, and this scientific method. And I hear all the time people saying like, why are you stuck in the grade 7 version of the scientific method? And they're stuck on it in a way that like, it has to be this,
Mhm.
and one comma out of place on this list, and therefore you're not doing science anymore. And that's something that I find really infuriating.
Well, it comes from two things. Number one, a belief in corruption of science. In other words, certain sciences early, further back, ether sciences were good and pure, but the relativity science, switch over relativity was corrupted. This is the narrative they tell, and they have a lot of bad stuff to say about Einstein. They that's their official haters club, because he made up relativity, defeating ether, and misled science for all generations after. And this is they really believe this. I mean, this is the working theory. So you have to declassify a lot of experiments as not being science, because if you can't control gravity, you have a little gravity machine, then how could you scientifically analyze or assess gravity in any way? And that is a protective barrier that they don't want you to cross. So you also hear things about natural sciences being science only using things that are not man-made. So you have to be in order for you to use Cavendish as a scientific experiment, you have to be able to see two lead balls gravitically attracting each other in nature in order for that to be legitimate science. And you'll hear that a lot of that sometime. These are protective measures designed to keep them from having to analyze data that would contradict the original belief.
Yeah. And it's really amusing because like what he just said about, I want to let him sort of say it again.
They'd never ever manipulate gravity because you can't manipulate gravity. The independent variable in a scientific experiment is always the presumed cause that has to be manipulated to get the outcome, which will be the dependent variable. So when they claim a vacuum chamber, for instance, and they drop something in a vacuum chamber, what was the independent variable manipulated?
He actually gets this right.
The medium. They took the air out that was there and vacuumed it. They vacated the air inside it.
Not how I would put it, but you're not wrong.
That was one of the manipulations they did, but he's also wrong in that we do experiments where we change.
Yeah.
We don't change what gravity is, but we change the masses involved.
Exactly.
So, for instance, there's a famous experiment where what they did was they built a rocket ship and they put a bunch of guys in it and they loaded up this apparatus. And one part of it was a feather from a bird, the other part of it was a hammer, and they took them to the moon. And they got out of the rocket. They had this lander thing. They had a guy stay in there and watch everything. They landed on the moon. They brought the apparatus out, and they took the hammer and a feather, and they held them at the same height above the surface of the moon, which is a much smaller mass than the Earth we live on. And they checked to see what the acceleration due to gravity was on the moon. And then they packed their shit up and came back to the Earth and told us what happened.
But see, according to the model, the hammer and that feather should have been pulled towards the sun, and
They are
because
pulled
it's
towards the sun.
it's the most massive object in the globe or solar system, right? So
Well,
It
they
is
were pulled towards the sun. They were
We're
just
all falling
harder
towards the
towards
sun.
the moon.
The entire Earth, the Earth going around the sun is like
Yes.
the inertial frame that like it has. There's a name for it. I think it's. I can't remember what the name of it, but it's referring to the fact that the Earth is in free fall
yes.
around the sun, and the only true inertial frame is a frame that is in free fall. We talk about the laboratory frames on Earth as being inertial frames, and for a lot of the purposes that we talk about it, that's totally fair and it's fine. But actually, you even when you're sitting still in your chair like me right now,
Mhm.
you're actually accelerating through 4D space time. I know that that's like a mind bender, and there's a lot of tensor mathematics because it turns out to be the most precise and concise way of describing these things, and I don't even know it all. But it's true. Like free fall is the only time you're in like an actual inertial frame. But
Yeah.
also they don't. Did they like they? But Stanley Kubrick though.
Yeah. Stanley Kubrick. Kubrick? Is it Kubrick? Is that the
Kubrick.
Kubrick? Okay, I don't want to mispronounce it because I think the Flurs have got me saying it wrong. But yeah, well, I have heard some people say that if he did film it, he did it on location.
Yeah,
He's such a stickler for reality.
exactly.
Yeah, he was just yeah.
The other thing is, it wasn't that hard to get to the moon. It was hard. It was really hard, but it wasn't. World peace is way harder.
I mean, so far one's been accomplished and the other hasn't. Multiple times for the other.
Yeah, I mean, not for a hot minute, but hopefully coming up not too long in the future, we'll get back there.
I think they'll get there.
Yeah, I mean, I have all of the faith in the world in Boeing, of course. Oh wait, shit.
I, for one, welcome our new Boeing overlords.
Boeing
they-
is not going to be our overlord. SpaceX will be our overlords. I mean, Elon Musk is already probably the most powerful person on the planet. So
Well, yeah, I don't think we should go down that road too far.
that's true. Yeah,
He's not with our hands on the wheel. But I would like to just say that I am impressed with how far the Little Red Line is on a Flatzoid video, and we're not even 40 minutes into the show.
right.
I mean, it's
Now
because it's
there's
an
less
8-minute video, but it's still impressive.
So I'm going to ask you another question. This again, imagine this in a chamber filled with air. It's already heavier than the air around it. Now when I take the air away, now there's even less to be able to support it. What will happen? It will just fall easier. Again, displacement ratios between the object and the medium.
But why is there a downward force at all? Why is there a tendency to go in that direction at all?
Brute fact. I mean,
And if they would own up to the brute fact, they have a way of defending that, because everybody appeals to a brute fact eventually, or at least an I don't know, and I'm taking this for the time being as a brute fact. Maybe they don't like actually believe it's a brute fact, but tomato, right?
Mhm.
But they don't do that most of the time. Sometimes they do, but he doesn't here.
Yeah, well, he's not being challenged enough to need to go, I
Yeah,
don't
but,
think
look though, the Lord sent this guy.
Here I am, the Lord, send me. Yeah.
That maybe would make more sense if it was a T, but
I think he means it like in the don't be silly, I'm just gonna send it. type
Yeah,
of.
no, he's saying I am a tool for the Lord, which, for the record,
or
flat eartherism not
or
a generic
anything.
feature of Christianity.
Oh, and anything else that rhymes with tool might fit in there.
Yep.
But the expression on Buddy's face here, I can't tell
This guy?
whether that expression is, yeah, Keith, you convinced me this is great stuff, or why am I interviewing this guy?
I think that expression is like, oh man, that's some decent weed. Which
Okay.
fair enough.
That's a very fair assessment.
That probably, yeah, I think that's probably his position.
Yeah.
Mark Agamotto would like to know if the Earth is constantly accelerating up.
No, and that is the thing. Have either of you ever met somebody who actually believes that?
Yes.
That it's accelerating up at 9.8 meters per, because most flat earthers will immediately be like, no, that's propaganda. That's a false flag idea. None of us believe that.
So that's a Flat Earth Society's position. There's also a guy named Dell. That's his.
Oh, Dell, yeah.
Yeah, but they're probably the Flat Earth Society. Are they actual flat earthers?
They are.
They are. I mean, as much as you can tell if anybody is.
Fair.
You can go to their website and you'll get banned if you ask questions about how to know things, and otherwise there'll be a little bit of traffic on their message board talking about the flatness of the Earth and Rowbottom and all that stuff.
Yeah.
They believe the Earth is accelerating upwards. Dell believes it is moving upwards at a constant velocity.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's
which doesn't work at all.
It's constantly accelerating up at 9.8 meters per second squared. Now the thing is, they've been testing this. They have chapters around the globe testing this, and that's where they got this information.
I mean,
oh, God.
in a way that works. It actually works better than density and buoyancy. It's like the upward acceleration of the Earth would explain certain things. It doesn't explain other things.
Well, and you don't want to explain too many things at once when it comes to flirfs. And if there are any flirfs in the chat, they're all on their way to Michael's to see what kind of frames they can buy, because they're going to do some experiments on reference frames
with independent and dependent variables.
Well, yeah. Well,
I am still waiting. I've been asking.
Go on.
Well, I was going to say those frames have an X and a Y axis if you stand them up just perfectly.
Yeah.
For 8 years now. Can anybody show me any scientific hypothesis and experiment for gravity?
No.
Yeah. Keith, go get a pen and paper. We've got some for you.
I mean, I have a whiteboard.
Well, I know, but your name Keith?
No, it's not. It's Bandy. My name is Bandy.
Mr. Flatzoid's first name is Keith.
Asking them to do math is like their Achilles heel.
It's so funny though, because I'm pretty sure the next sentence is him denying the Cavendish experiment is an experiment or something like that.
Could be.
And then I would like to, after he makes that remarkably stupid wrong point, I'd like to explain what the Cavendish experiment is.
Till this day, I have not got one. I do get people claiming things like Cavendish, but Cavendish is not even an experiment. Cavendish has not got an independent variable and a dependent variable.
All right. So, the Cavendish experiment takes a string from the ceiling, and then you have like a barbell sort of thing with two big weights. Okay? This is a side view of it. And you let that sort of like settle down, and that's all wonderful and great. Now, let's imagine that we have a top view of it, and this is the center, and one of the weights is over here, and one of the weights is over here. So this this is the side view, and this is the top view. And so when you have the top view, what you can do is you can vary the amount of weight that you put in this little box right here. It's an imaginary box. There's no boxes. If you put an actual box there, a cat will jump into it, and that'll throw off all your measurements. Okay?
Right.
But you can put a big ass bowling ball right there, and this thing, which has the string that's coming up towards you, will start to move this way, and because so you've got this tension, this torsion balance. And so what will happen is everything's still, and then you put a big weight there, and the ball moves towards it. So before, you just had the weight of the air there, and then you independently of the effect you're trying to measure, changed or varied how much mass you put there. And then you saw that the movement of this whole, balanced weight thing starts oscillating. From the side view, it looks like it's going like that. And from the top view, it looks like it's going like that. So I don't know what he's talking about. What do you mean there's no independent variable? The independent variable is the mass. You can also do the same experiment with the same mass and different strings. Certain types of strings, like a thick metal cable, for example, will be very stiff and it won't want to wiggle much. So this thing, it won't deflect much, and it'll deflect at some frequency. But if you then put it on like a really, 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 small piece of nylon or something, then it'll swing way more. And then you can make that the independent variable. And all of these, you can go through and do some really not that hard mathematics that boils down to force equals mass times acceleration, which is a thing that even they don't really disagree with. And you can see there is a force that is apparent, that is proportional to the mass, and when the masses are expressed in units of kilograms and the distances are expressed in units of meters, that there is a proportionality constant that happens to be equal to 6.67 times 10 to the negative 11, and then the kilogram meters per second. The exact,
For $2, Mark Agamotto says, if I fits, I sits.
There we go. So, do you guys know what he means? Is he saying that you can't dial the gravitational constant?
Kind of, yes. So he's not necessarily talking about, I don't know if he knows he's talking about the gravitational constant. He's talking about the attractive force. And because, we're claiming that this force is gravity, so we would have to be, the independent variable would have to be gravity's attraction that we are changing. So we're changing the gravitational constant. That is effectively, yes, what he's saying. And, he also might fall back to, well, it's just like electrostatics, right? There's a version of Cavendish that was done fairly recently, like a year or two ago, in a vacuum chamber with a Faraday shield, with vibration dampeners, using gold balls, so that there would be no net magnetics, and they were chosen to be large enough to sort of exclude being pushed around by the Cavendish force, but they were still quite small, the smallest on record, I believe, for Cavendish style.
Yeah, the Cavendish remains a state-of-the-art way of measuring the gravitational constant. Torsion balances, whether or not they are called Cavendish things, they're Cavendish. It's a torsion balance, and that's what's going on.
Yeah, that's what people do.
The only other method that I know of for calculating a competitive method for determining the gravitational constant actually, I think, uses atom interferometry, which is my specialty. There was a paper by the Tino group in Italy. I'm pretty sure it's Italy, from 2013. I don't know if there have been other measurements published yet. Tim Cavacci's group at Northwestern University is trying to do some of that. The gravitational constant is really hard to measure. We only know it to about 4-5 decimal places or significant figures. We know other things way more precise. Like we have clocks that are accurate to the 20th decimal place. 19th, but yeah. But
Yeah. I mean, but all of this is based on the idea that science is corrupt. Therefore, you can't trust science that was done around gravity. Science dealing with gravity or science dealing with orbital mechanics, free fall, relativity. Can't trust any of that science because it was corrupted following the Michelson-Morley experiment.
Yeah, that was when the Aether got pulled out from under them, and they get very upset about that. There seems to be something. I don't know if there was something specific that they think changed in the 19th century about science in general, but they seem to be very, very much attracted to Newton and Galileo and Copernicus and Tycho Brahe. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but all of their work with orbital mechanics and gravity and all that sort of stuff is like, okay, that's okay.
Which is astonishing. Those people would have been utterly flummoxed if these people thought the Earth is flat.
Absolutely, because of course it had been known for a minimum of a couple of millennia.
And all of their data is taken in coordinate systems that presume the sphericity of the Earth. The ecliptic versus the equatorial,
Well,
it doesn't make sense, and it doesn't have to make sense. When it comes to FLIRS, they have their own reality they're working in, and they believe that at a certain point, everyone started lying.
yes, either they were lied to and repeating the lie, or knowingly lying and creating the lie.
Yeah, it's a combination. It's a real mixed bag there.
They literally believe that Einstein was the tool of the conspiracy brought in to explain Michelson-Morley's findings and get rid of ether technology. Put us off the trail to discovering ether technology.
Yep.
Cavendish was actually created as a means to calculate Earth's mean density. It was not made
the Earth's mean density. So that's true. But the tomato again. The determination of the Earth's mean density, that happened to be the variable that he expressed gravitational attraction in, because that made sense. It is exactly mathematically equivalent to expressing it in terms of a gravitational constant. And it's a lot sort of simpler, attachable because expressing it in terms of the Earth's mean density is like a weird, kludgy way of talking about gravity, which happens, not just on the Earth. But the title of the paper was something about determining the Earth's mean density. But it's the same thing.
Well, I mean, he doesn't think it's a real experiment anyway because he doesn't know what the independent variable was. If you tell him what the independent variable was, he'll say it's not a legitimate independent variable. If you ask him why, he will appeal to a version of the scientific method that does not exist anywhere, even in the 7th grade science books.
Because
don't think it says
we did identify an independent variable, and it does fit those 7th grade science books. The Cavendish experiment actually does fit that definition. A lot of science does, and it's when it does, it's a lot easier sometimes to talk about because you're not sort of relying on people understanding kind of how scientific thinking works in the more generalized sense, which is totally fair. Most people aren't scientists. Most people haven't done science since, their classes in high school.
Right.
And they may not have enjoyed it.
No, I think that's where they get people into this by taking those that never had a science education or those that only did the very basic stuff.
Or the full-on conspiracy people.
Yeah, people that are just they know science, but they're really easily bought into the conspiracy stuff. It's infuriating to talk to some of them because there are a few who are reasonable who will have a conversation, and there are the ones who bought hook, line, and sinker the whole thing. And I think they're the most difficult ones are the ones that believe they've been told the truth by these wonderful people, and the ones that have their own money on the line because this is their grift, their con. They get really upset when they can see that they're about to be exposed, as Omnivore pointed out earlier, that they'll reach that wall, and it's the wall where they know they're about to be exposed as an idiot or a fraud, or they and then they have that hard reset thing.
Mm-hmm.
They'll start back. So you could have a conversation with Flatzoid here. You could say, okay, he might even agree with you that, oh yeah, that is an independent variable, and then he'll lie about what's happened. And I mean, he's saying it's a calculation, which it was, but it was also there's a real measurement happening here that was the beginning of that calculation. And so to say that this is like just a straight calculation is wrong, because this measurement was giving them something to do a calculation with.
Yeah. When they put the weight there, it moved. And when they put different weights there, they moved. And when they used different strings, it changed in accordance with the spring constant of the torsion balance. It's my dad. So I have never personally done a Cavendish experiment. It was not one of the sort of classic experiments that I did in undergrad, which is generally where people do it. My dad did, though, when he was in undergrad, and he remembers describing how much of a pain in the ass it was, and they kept on getting wonky measurements, and they realized that to do it right, what they actually had to do is they had to get down on the floor and crawl underneath the thing and then place the mass, because their body weight was perturbing the system when they went near to place the mass. So they had to go underneath it so that it didn't do that. And I was like, that sounds like a pain in the ass.
It's the same thing with Foucault's pendulum. It's hard to set up properly.
Yeah, that one, and also the Millikan oil drop one. That's also another pain in the ass. A lot of these experiments are tough. I mean, I'm an experimentalist, and I spend a lot of my time fixing small bits of my apparatus that aren't working right, because you need to have 1,000 things work correctly to get the thing to work. And so you're playing whack-a-mole sometimes. Oftentimes it works great, and it works great 3 weeks in a row, and everything's great, and you're really happy because you walk in, you turn the lasers on, you press lock, and they just lock to the frequency they're supposed to be locked at. And then sometimes your laser is mad at you, and you have to sit there and press buttons until its stupid mode hop goes away.
All right, can I jump in and just say something really important, far more important than flat Earth? Is that I have called some of the bingo words, and so if you're playing bingo, please go and check your cards. And I've decided to call the ones, even if Flatzoid doesn't say it, I've decided to call the ones that we've come across as we've had the discussion.
Fair enough.
Because of how far into the show we got.
I can't believe you are doing bingo and all of this.
I was a champion.
Oh, yeah. I can barely keep up with this and chat. But Lieutenant Jedi has gifted us 5 more cultists. Jedi Rockstar, thank you. And those went to What the Beck, Doc Dino, H.L. Aristoteles, Crafty, Signy Raptor, Peter Guns. Yeah, I think those, yeah, that's 5 because I am smart and I can count. Thank you, Lieutenant Jedi, and welcome our new cult members. Please continue to enjoy your tapioca weasels, your nitties, and vaginas.
Improve gravity. It is just simply torque vectoring due to the weight on a rod.
Is he saying talk vectoring or thought vectoring? Do you know?
I don't know. I think
Because-
taught.
Taut vectoring. Oh, like a taut wire. I don't know what that means either. Is that a term that makes sense?
You got me.
They like to throw the word vector in because they know that it's a word that smart people use or something. I don't know.
I usually
need
throw
to go
vectors
on?
into my speech randomly.
Huh?
I said I usually throw random vectors into my speech when I'm, trying to sound intelligent.
Yeah, I mean, that actually is like among the words that I might do that with if I like did that, but I don't got time for that.
Nice vector there, Tapioca.
Oh yeah.
This vector we're on is a tangent from what we're supposed to be doing, which is listening to Keith explain gravity to us.
On a rod. Do I need to go on? It's very easy to show gravity wrong.
Keep going.
What?
Heck, do you not think God would have told you about gravity?
He just sort of describes, okay, yeah, the Cavendish, you've got a taut thing and it's got a rod, and I explained how you've got the masses, and then you look at a displacement, and then you can use those measurements to do a calculation, and you can get a gravitational constant, or equivalently, you can get the mean density of the Earth, which, by the way, requires reasonable knowledge on the volume of the Earth and the the radius specifically, because you have to know how far away from the center you are. But he's just like, it's very easy to prove gravity wrong. Nothing you said there proves gravity wrong, my guy. And now we're pulling out the Bible, which is a bold strategy.
Well, it sounds like he knows his audience.
Oh, he does. And this guy, I mean, and you know what? Now he looks like he's literally just had a bong hit, and I don't know what software he uses to. He's obviously got something taking the smoke out of his, like the way I have like my false background in here. He has like something taking the smoke out of his camera, but this guy's definitely like smoking something good.
Yeah.
Could be.
So, yeah.
In the Bible? I think so. He didn't. But he did tell us God was there when he laid the foundations. God was very specific when he said, who was there when I laid the foundations and drew the line upon the earth? Not a globe, no gravity needed.
But so that makes it sound like the Earth is a one-dimensional line. Is the Earth a one-dimensional line?
Well, lines can't curve, right?
Not last I checked.
Wouldn't
Sorry?
the gravity pull in all the planets in space, even though they go in eclipses? So you have they go like that, and they go sharp, and then they manage to hold.
They go in ellipses, not eclipses, but fair enough.
This guy's still smarter than Flatsoid.
Yeah.
Hold themselves together. So you have they go like that, and they go sharp, and then they manage to hold themselves together. Wouldn't they all just clump together in one big lump?
Well, that's it.
So why is that wrong?
So, so first off, there's going to be a not completely even distribution of matter, so some clumps are going to form, initially somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And and then secondly, because it's inverse proportional to distance, all of those irregularities are going to be magnified greatly especially based on the incredibly large distances involved.
And also, but the reason that things in orbit don't just fall towards the thing is that they absolutely fall towards the thing. That's what an orbit is.
Mhm.
You're in free fall. It's just that you have enough momentum sideways, or equivalently, you have enough angular momentum that you can't actually fall into it, because as you get closer and closer, you're going faster and faster, and you'll overshoot, unless you just really don't have enough angular momentum and you just whack into the sun.
But that
Things in
does
orbit-
happen, right? Like we do.
It does happen. It does happen. It does it happens. It happens all the time in low Earth orbit. The ISS has to use thrusters. They have to basically open a thing of compressed air. Maybe they use a rocket. I actually don't know, but I think it's basically just a thing of compressed air, and they point it behind them, and that is that's a little rocket, without combustion, that pushes them and speeds them up. And the reason they need to do that is because there's still air up there. It's very, 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 very thin. So the ISS is slowing down slowly, and it will, because it's not going fast enough. And as it falls, it actually is going to fall further into the atmosphere, and it'll eventually burn up. This happens to satellites with some regularity, hopefully normally intentionally, and in a way that people expect and know when it's going to happen. Things do fall, but that's because a force they have drag. There's something slowing them down.
Yep. And that's something that Flatslade should understand, because he explained about the experiment where you could evacuate a chamber of most of its air and call it a vacuum.
Yeah. But that was a good question from this guy. That's a totally reasonable question for a person to ask about gravity. It has an answer. I actually don't remember.
If Keith comes up with the right answer, I will be very shocked.
I can't remember what his answer to this one is.
Hold themselves together, wouldn't they all just clump together in one big lump?
Well, that's the thing. When they try and demonstrate gravity working, they usually take a little trampoline or something, and they put a bowling ball in the middle, and they spin a marble around. What happens eventually? It hits that marble. It hits that bowling ball. We never see this.
I wonder why that is.
They have
It's because there's drag, right? And we do see it. Satellites deorbit all the time.
Yeah.
But have you seen a satellite deorbit? Did you hold it in your hand while it was deorbiting? No.
I was smart enough not to. I put on my oven mitt.
No, I say, you have just heard tale of satellites deorbiting.
Oh, probably.
what we call the three-body problem. They are not able to perfectly work out using the math for gravity as a force, or not even a force, why those bodies work the way they do.
Okay, that he went a little bit off the rail there. His point is about the three-body problem, and his claim is that they cannot perfectly work out, and then to steel man what he meant to keep on saying, they cannot perfectly work out with the math exactly where three bodies in under mutual gravitational influence will end up after some period of time. The word perfectly is doing a lot of work there, because it is true that we do not have a closed form solution. We can calculate it to arbitrary precision. We can calculate it to 1,000 decimal places if we want to, and we give it enough computer time. That's totally useless because I mean, just the sun being slightly like having a sunspot on it will change the math at that level, above that level. And we have you can approximate with like an absurd amount of accuracy, but you can't write down a thing that without doing an infinite series or without doing an integral, you can't give a closed form analytic solution.
Okay, so would you agree then, Vandy, that Heath is right and we should just give up and stop doing science altogether? And he had that black book there. What was it called?
Gravitation by Meisner, Thorne, and Wheeler.
No,
it's like that thick.
It was the same thickness, but it was single space.
Was it the Holy Bible?
It was the Holy Bible. I think what Keith is suggesting is that we should just scrap all this science bullshit and get our information from the one book where everything is there for us.
Yeah, but I mean, I've read the Bible. It's not all there.
Because gravity doesn't exist. I think that's about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
What else can you say?
I mean, if the moon pulls in the waves on the Earth, would it not pull itself into the Earth?
Not when it already has momentum going in orbit. Like, that's what an orbit is, buddy.
Also, what do they think explains the tides?
They think that anamorphic nodes, or I forget the exact term. It's
I'll be right back.
tidal nodes. So, tides present a specific problem for flat Earth because if it's high tide and low tide in different places at the same time, that implies water is curved.
Yeah.
And because high tides and low tides last for a few hours, it suggests, and our constant thing, it suggests that the water is always curved.
Yeah, and constantly moving.
Right.
It's a weird. I listened to a really interesting one. It was a long time ago, at least over a year ago, and it might not have been current at the time, where they complained that because there's a leading edge of tides that isn't perfectly aligned with the moon, that totally took away the possibility of suggesting that the moon creates the tides.
Correct. Yeah. It doesn't though. But
well, no, but that was because these things don't line up perfectly,
right?
Because the tides lag and because they're up and down in different areas, which I think has a lot more to do with topography and like ocean floor surfaces and stuff makes a lot more sense than what they're saying. But they're saying, well, they're not perfect; they're just close, and therefore we can throw this out as a hypothesis.
Yeah, the idea that that the moon is not always directly over a high tide bulge.
Yeah, that was their assertion.
Yeah, right. And of course, when we look at the what people are saying about it, it doesn't say the moon has to be directly over it.
No,
but
it's funny how they perfect, like the way Keith was talking here. He's really upset that the three-body problem is therefore like never gonna be something that can go away because perfection is never reached, and their search for perfection is really strange.
Mm-hmm.
Because we get we get close to within, as Tap points out, a number of decimal places. They don't even get close, whereas in like three different concepts could work at the same time.
They don't have a model.
No, they don't.
And they have started treating this like an advantage or like a reason that you should agree with them. And it's
kind of bizarre.
I'm like
bizarre.
Oh. Well, for $2, Brilliant says, "I'm giddy for gravity."
I'm glad somebody.
That's good.
All right.
If it can just generate the waves.
things are supposed to pull closer to each other. And also another issue they have with gravity is
I thought so. Does he mention it? Hold on.
about 110 years ago, Einstein came up with the theory of general relativity.
Okay, no, he doesn't. So he was saying the way he said it should pull things closer together, right? And I thought he was going to bring up the fact that the Earth is moving, the moon is moving away from the Earth. That orbital radius is getting larger, which is true. And actually, the tides are exactly one of the reasons why this is true. There is an exchange of angular momentum between the Earth and the moon. And the moon is losing angular momentum is basically like being dissipated because the Earth is like rotating faster, and it's being slowed down, and that's being compensated then by the moon being slowed down to sort of conserve overall. And if the moon is losing angular momentum, is that right? I actually can't remember off the top of my head if a circular orbit at a higher radius or a lower radius has the more angular momentum.
Well,
This-
this is what happens when the
Orbital
weasels.
dynamics is like subtle.
So mhm.
Go on.
I think it's the Earth is losing angular
Yeah.
momentum, I believe.
Yeah, and then the moon is one is transferring to the other, but are they both are they both getting smaller or it depends on which way the Earth is, like the moon is rotating and all that. But eventually the Earth, if you didn't have to worry about the sun becoming a red giant and all that, eventually the Earth would become tidally locked to the moon. And one side of it would always face the moon, just like one side of the moon mostly always faces the Earth. And that's because of tidal locking. It turns out that, and the moon isn't perfect. It nutates, I think might be the word. It oscillates a little bit. We don't always see exactly the same parts. Like sometimes we see a little bit on this edge, and then sometimes a little bit on that edge.
That's because the moon is a tease.
Could be.
which you perceive as Newtonian gravity. Newtonian gravity is based on a force. Einsteinian gravity is based on not a force, based in the fourth dimensional math.
I mean, dude, call it what you want to call it, I guess. I don't have a problem calling gravity a force. A lot of people get like picky about that. I think that's missing the point. Physicists all agree that gravity is a thing. Some of them don't like the word force. Some of them, I think it's fine because I think that it's just a different definition of force. Words can have multiple related definitions, you know?
Yeah, well, I've got something important to say, and that is that of all flurf antics, the funniest one is semantics.
That's what we call time. That's time on that one. That was really difficult. I think what they're
Gravity is based on a force. Einsteinian gravity is based on not a force, based in the fourth dimensional math.
that's what we call time. That's time on that one. That was really difficult. I think what they're just getting the word confused with. Instead of gravity, what would you call gravity?
Oh,
Magic.
This is funny because they totally get crossed here. They totally like Flatsoid's about to make a point about how like our models of gravity are magic, and it just totally goes over this guy's head. He's like, "Wait, no, but wouldn't you say like buoyancy or something?"
I don't even know what he called gravity. Like he gave him an
Magic.
he just said magic. Okay.
It was really difficult. I
wasn't-
think what they're just getting the word confused with. Instead of gravity, what would you call gravity?
Magic.
Magic. Displacement. Heavy
He's like, I was expecting you to say displacement. Because now it makes it sound like they think displacement is magic, which is
Sure, why not?
fair enough.
Everything's full. The helium goes up because it's a lighter air. You know, like your cereal, all the best bits, like your chocolate balls, they all go to the bottom, don't they? Because they're a little bit heavier through displacement, displacing heavier particles. It doesn't just work on liquids.
Yeah, but why are things heavy? What is heaviness?
It works on gases. It works on solids.
Yeah, I think it is harder to. Sorry, you can introduce it.
$5 Sinister Purpose would like to know, is it harder to solve the halting problem to figure out how magnets work?
Or to, yeah, I think it is.
Or
probably-
two, I'm sorry, or two.
Yeah, I think it's probably harder to solve the halting problem. Because I'm pretty sure that's by definite. Like, can't you prove that it's incomputable? I
Yes,
think.
yes, you can prove. Yes, apparently, I forget the proof, but I've been over it.
It's fairly straightforward and kind of elegant. It's a proof by contradiction. You imagine you had a machine capable of solving the halting problem and what its outputs would be, and then you can build a contradiction for that.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, that sounds right.
But magnets work in a lot of different ways, and most of them are demonic, but some of them are based on like Maxwell's equations, which. I'm just saying, there's one guy in physics that has a demon named after him, and it's Maxwell. Maxwell's demon. I'm just saying, right? So
You're not wrong. That makes him, like the coolest, physics, whatever you would want to call it.
on this show, we have very firm opinions about who the coolest physicist of all time was.
All
Nikola
right.
Tesla.
Oh yeah.
No.
I don't know how I didn't have Tesla on the bingo card tonight, but somehow I didn't. But I was using.
He hasn't come up yet. I mean, he just come up like now.
No, he will for sure. Like, I've never seen Tesla not come up on a BSS stream. And we did talk about Tesla automobiles manufacturer making rockets, and so with the 6 degrees of 7 bacon rule, I believe we've hit it. His namesake is on Elon's other company, so I think we're there. All right.
Yeah, I mean, that's why when you bring up viscosity, it explains it quite well.
Yeah.
If you
Explain.
look at a vacuum chamber,
Did you say viscosity?
Viscosity, yeah. Viscosity. What does it explain? Gravity?
Yeah. I mean,
it explains drag. Like, yeah, it does that. But it doesn't explain gravity. Viscosity is a property of like fluids.
it is a property of fluids, but
Okay, hold on. So maybe we should channel a little bit of Mr. Slave here for a moment, and because gravity is caused by the ether fluid, right? So maybe it's a viscosity thing.
I don't know if people know what you're talking about.
Mr. Slave is the guy that we argue with and talk to on Discord. And he streams all of those conversations, so you can find them.
Yes, and he believes he's come up with a groundbreaking theory of science.
several, I believe,
Wow.
several groundbreaking.
It's all ether based.
Yeah, several. It's all based on ether. And so when he talks about his the ether theories that he's got, basically he believes that it's a fluid, that it accounts for everything, and you don't need quantum mechanics. You don't need, it gives you your standard state of light, speed of light, without having to go through, I guess, the rest of the relativity.
Yeah, no relativities.
that he doesn't like. Yeah, so that's his theory, and like many people who believe the ether believe it is a kind of a universal fluid. So
Yeah, but can
Yeah.
I run it in my motorcycle? I don't think I can.
Well, I mean,
Well, let me further point out that my motorcycle has a wet clutch. Okay, now answer.
I don't know what that means, but when you say run it in your motorcycle, you mean like as fuel? Because there's a lot of fluids you shouldn't
No,
use.
no. I meant as a lubricant.
Oh, okay. Well, there's a lot of fluids you shouldn't use as a lubricant either.
There are, and some people are trying them all one at a time.
Yeah,
The-
like
the-
egg yolk. Bad idea.
So I don't think it makes sense to go into the intricacies of Mr. Slave's postulations, but he is really really attracted to the Aether theory, but not the one that Michelson and Morley disproved. He made up his own, which is interesting, and it takes the place of gravity. And so it's interesting to compare to what Keith is saying here, because Flatzoid's postulation is that gravity just doesn't happen, but things fall down. But I think one of the interesting things that maybe people that are not familiar with the Flurf system may not get that what's happening is if you have gravity, it would pull matter, it would coalesce into a spherical shape. And on flat Earth, you can't have a spherical shape, and so the flat Earth can't have gravity. So they can't admit that gravity exists, because if it did, it would negate their idea that the Earth is just like flat, plane. And they get upset if you call it a pancake or a pizza, because of course it isn't any of those things. That's just ridiculous. They have a very sound, well-founded flat plane that does not resemble other disks and flat surfaces that we're familiar with from our day-to-day lives. So comparing it to those is unfair and wrong. But I still can't explain what it is they're thinking. Maybe thinking's a bad word. I'm sorry. I take back that word.
it may not be thinking.
It may not be thinking. But and to be clear, Mr. Slave is not a flat earther.
He's not.
Yeah,
He's he's not a flat earther, but he is an Aether theorist who may or may not be turning science on its side. May
No.
not is more likely than
I would bet the entire fate of everybody that I've ever met on that.
would you
Very
bet
helpful.
that entire gravimeter manual that you showed me earlier today?
I mean,
on-
yeah, but that's not saying that's a great manual though.
I was really hoping we were going to cover that manual instead of Flatzoid, and that this Flatzoid video was just a thing you were like,
This is Bad Science Sunday. That manual was full of great science.
oh, I know.
Sorry, we're legitimately geeking out over an awesome manual for an absolute falling corner cube based gravimeter that I found earlier today, and yes, okay, it's a device that drops a corner cube, which is a thing where you shine the light in and it always comes back parallel. All it is. It doesn't. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You're just gonna yell at me and then Bryce take me off the stream.
I'm sorry, I fell asleep. Can you say that again? Oh, wait. No, don't. I'll just kick you off the screen. Moving on.
Exactly.
Write a song about
It works on
gravimetry?
gases. It works on.
What?
Would you like me to write a song about gravimetry?
I mean, you'll do it whether I want you to or
Why,
not,
Paul?
won't you?
I've written no less than 3 songs about quantum physics in the last couple of weeks.
that's a lot.
Dr. Tapp
On
has not
solid.
told me any of them are good yet, so I haven't published them.
I've told you several of your songs are good.
Yeah, but not the quantum physics one.
Well, now I feel bad.
Oh, Good. You're my test audience. Thank you.
Work on
You're
liquids.
a pretty princess.
It works
Al.
on gases. It works on solids.
Yeah, I mean, that's why when you bring up viscosity, it explains it quite well.
Yeah.
If you look at a vacuum chamber, and let's place this thing inside a vacuum chamber on a scale. Okay, we place on a scale. It gives a weight reading. Now I'm going to evacuate the air. According to gravity, what's supposed to happen to the weight of this thing?
What should happen in that experiment, you guys?
So
Genuine question, yeah.
his experiment is this thing in a vacuum chamber.
His experiment is he puts the weight, the test mass, on the scale and measures the reading in ambient pressure, and then they pump out all of the air. And
you
what happens-
remeasure the weight again. Yeah, there's going to be some weight of the air that was pushing down on the, on the thing. So it's 14
Pushing up.
pounds. If I have the whatever that is, his phone holder sitting on a scale in atmosphere, the
atmosphere is pushing down, but that's all in equilibrium because it's a fluid, so it's doing it with pressure. So it's also pushing up on like the bits of the scale just as much. If it was evacuated below the scale, then it would. Huh?
It's a scale, not a balance, right? Like it's
It's a scale, not a balance. So it would what actually is happening is you would actually get a buoyant force. It would actually push it up a little bit.
Okay, but if we assume that the scale is a sealed surface along the bottom of whatever room we're in.
Imagine you're weighing a piece of wood that's like waterlogged, so it sinks, but just barely, and you're doing this underwater, and you're measuring the weight of the wood. It's going to be fairly mild, and then if you get rid of all the water, then it's just all sitting down.
Right. Okay.
The scale, though, unless it has like a vacuum chamber that it's measuring things against, so in which case it's really more of a pressure sensor. Is going to, if you just have it underwater but not with anything pushing down other than just the water, it's gonna read zero.
Okay.
What if you teared the scale before? Like if you didn't tear the scale, if you had it as a vacuum and measured it first with the vacuum, then added it and didn't re-tear the scale, would this equilibrium force happen again, or would the downward acceleration of the gas particles in the vacuum chamber that you re-add, would it still reach an equilibrium of the gaseous fluid in it, or would that cause a difference in the effect? Because tearing of a scale can make a big difference in how you read things, right?
What tearing?
When you tear a scale, which is to put it to zero it with, like, for instance, if you were to wanted to weigh. Well,
I just use zeroing for that.
That when you tear a scale, to get a tear weight, this is something that happens in trucking all the time. So you might weigh the empty truck first, or the loaded truck first, depending on where you're going, to find out the weight of So what I'm suggesting is the tearing of the scale was done in the vacuum situation, and then you add the air and the weight back in after, and do not re-tear the scale. Would you then see a different reading? Is my question.
You shouldn't.
Okay.
If the scale works, so it depends on how the scale works. If the scale works by measuring like the compression of a spring inside of an evacuated thing with like a piston, then you have that's actually a pressure sensor, not a scale. But where is the thing that I use to erase this? I don't know, but I have this, so it's fine. For if it's, you can make just a fairly straightforward scale by just having your base plate here, and then a spring or a couple of springs, right? That you've characterized, and then this, and then a dial. I don't know how dials work. I'm not very smart, but a scale like this with springs, it does not matter what this is inside of. I mean, if it's inside rock, then it's not going to move. But if it's in air, if it's in a vacuum, if it's in water, you're not measuring the force of that because the water is everywhere. It's also inside this thing pushing it up.
Right. If it's all exposed to the atmosphere, I agree. Yes.
And most mechanical scales
Are
work
not
like
are
something
not
like this.
airtight. Yeah.
Yeah, most of them work like this. They're not work. If you then close this off and hermetically seal it,
Right.
then you're measuring the net force going down, which is going to include the pressure difference. So if this is a vacuum, you're going to get the full pressure. But then that's a pressure sensor because
you're not just measuring the weight of what's on it, you're measuring the full pressure.
Now
of what's on it.
now the pressure of the air is like if you're out in the open, that is the weight of that column of air basically just going up.
Yeah.
Like it is that weight, but it doesn't have to be. Because, for example, when you're in an airplane, it's pressurized, and if you did that same thing where you like collimate all the thing, you'd have like 6 feet of normal pressure air, and then you'd have some metal, which would throw everything off, but then you'd have the stratosphere or wherever you're flying in. So that's the answer to the experiment that this guy's proposing, which is like measuring something on a scale in the thing, and I can't remember what
in a vacuum chamber and without it. So he's expecting something. He's come up with a thought about what would happen when you evacuate this chamber.
All right, but I do want to. We do have to. Sorry, people give us money, so we do have to acknowledge that, and I do want to thank Sinister Purpose. Because she's always awesome, and please continue to enjoy your tapioca weasels, your nitties, and vaginas.
It gives the weight inside a vacuum chamber on a scale.
Okay,
it's based on a scale. It gives a weight reading. Now I'm going to evacuate the air. According to gravity, what's supposed to happen to the weight of this thing?
So the answer that I have is that the weight will go up slightly because you've removed the minor buoyancy contribution that would have been supporting it. If you were doing this in, Mercury, for example, everything's going to float on the Mercury.
It's not supposed to change, is it?
No, gravity's.
Nothing's going to change.
It's not supposed to change. It will if you have a good enough thing, and the amount it should change by the way, I'm pretty sure is the displaced air, the mass of the displaced air by the object. I'm pretty sure it should change by that amount because that's how buoyancy works. Eureka.
I like
go through it.
It gets heavier.
No, how?
He just said it gets heavier, and I just explained why it would get heavier. I watched this video before. I don't remember which one he said.
Okay.
Oh, but I do want to thank Vulpix for celebrating 7 months as a cultist with us.
That's cool.
That is really cool. Thank you. Please continue to enjoy your tapioca weasels, your nitties, and vaginas.
Is it?
No, gravity's still going through it.
It gets heavier.
It doesn't get heavier. It doesn't get heavier unless you're defining that in terms of what the scale is experiencing. The weight of the object does not change. It's just that you're removing. It's like you had a little bit of like a helium balloon connected to it, and then you clipped that. It's very similar to that.
It's an issue because they have selective gravity. So some people say, well, air is pushing down on it, so it should be heavier before it gets evacuated.
That makes a lot of sense, and that was exactly what some of us initially postulated, right? But you know, I'm not saying that was like obvious, that the fact that it should get like a little bit heavier when you pump out the air, I'm not saying that's obvious, because it's not. I mean, we don't have a whole lot of experience with, you know, giant vacuum chambers, so
We don't get to do this very often.
no, I've never done anything like this.
Although,
No, it's light.
can I say something really unkind about Flatside? Because he gets to do all of his thinking in a vacuum chamber that's inside his cranium.
Fair enough, yeah.
So,
There's not
which
even
is
much, yeah.
paradoxically also one of the densest regions of space we've encountered.
A conundrum.
Yeah.
You know, we should publish on this. We might win a Nobel Prize.
Yeah.
Flurfs are just fun.
Yeah. Our new research into the vacuum density.
The enigmatic nature of the Flurf brain is just something that never ceases to enthrall and amaze me.
Yeah.
Before it gets evacuated. No, it's lighter before it gets evacuated, because showing air is not pushing down on it. Air is hitting it in every direction. So
Yes.
that already alone debunks the claim that gravity is pulling gas down towards the Earth.
That's so simple. It sounds like it could be true.
Mm-hmm.
I never know what to make of statements like that. Like, legitimately, like,
Yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah, heavy things
This is
fall.
why you be asked that, what do you observe?
all
Well-
right. So, I'm going to get that guy's thing off the screen.
Holy shit, is it over? Are we done?
We're done with that. I mean,
God damn it.
Okay, now
I-
I think I suggested we watch a 45-minute long Flurf video to follow this one.
I'm not going to do that you're about to, I thought you were about to boot him off. That would have been funny, Maya. You missed an opportunity to boot off Al.
I was totally.
Absolutely take that. Al's a big boy.
I'm tougher than I look.
No, so what I have is a few different shorter videos that we can watch from our friend Mark Sargent, and I would like you two to decide which ones we go for first. Okay, these are 1 minute videos, so we'll be able to but it's going to take us more than 1 minute to cover them because the Gish Gallop is incredible.
Is there any on Antarctica?
Yes. Did I have that one open? There is one on Antarctica.
Yes,
Yes.
he is.
Yep, there is.
Okay.
Here we go.
Okay.
All
and
right. I want to clarify.
I need to interject for 2 seconds just to say that I have just been issued a tornado warning. So if you see me flying towards a witch, please duck and cover.
I mean, yeah. All right.
Okay.
Hope you don't end up in Kansas. So I want to clarify. I do not have this sped up at all. And the reason I say that is because we're gonna get some Mark Sargent here. 105,000 subscribers. 9 days ago it was released, and only 1,500 views. That's not great numbers. Not great numbers.
Well, good.
Yeah. So
my flat Earth friends message me, say, Mark, how about Antarctica and the round earther experiment? You're right, we need to get ahead of this. The globe trolls have gotten together and come up with an experiment, not really an experiment, where they go to Antarctica and just stare and see if the sun sets. That's it, seriously, because we've never thought of that.
do we want to interrupt? Actually, do we want to let it go all the way through and then respond?
I think we can let it go all the way through and talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
that in 10 years, a 24-hour sun in Antarctica does not debunk flat Earth. The problem is that, one, no one gets into flat Earth because of the sun, and two, if you did see the 24-hour sun, it would just show that there's something else in the sky that we don't know about and you don't either. It doesn't address anything in physics like gravity, it doesn't address the lack of curvature with long-distance photography, and it literally has nothing to do with all the plot holes tied to every space program in history. So if the trolls want to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, make a series of videos, all of which draw more attention to the flat Earth theory without me lifting a finger, outstanding. Seriously, where do you think we've gotten the attention so far? Much bigger trolls have been helping us for years, and you want to add to that? Fine by me, it's your money. Do your own research and see who's spreading hate and who is preaching love about the flat Earth. Whatever, I'm done.
So
So my flat Earth friends
So what he's talking about, I don't know if everybody, in the
probably not. Our audience
knows is not flat.
probably
Earth.
not. Yeah.
They're
So-
too smart to know about it.
Yeah, probably. So a guy named Will Duffy, who is a small time, a relatively normal person, who has apparently some money
Apparently, yeah.
from his time on Wall Street, has put together a challenge called the Final Experiment. I probably would have chosen a different name. But-
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
But the idea is that he pays for a glober and a flat earther to go tour Antarctica. There are tour groups that go down there and witness the 24-hour sun. So that, next month, I guess, when they'll be, flying and setting sail or whatever they have to do to get to the airport in, I think, Argentina. But the point being is that flat earthers basically fled from this. The Final Experiment is a success already in that as a kind of a logic puzzle. We get to see what the flat earthers, when confronted with what a lot of them had said was impossible, that it was impossible for there to be a 24-hour sun. Now, when offered a chance to go check it out, a lot of them are like, "Yeah, no, I'm not going to do that."
And they're already rationalizing, which we saw in this video. So, like, okay,
message me, say, Mark, how about Antarctica and the round
You know,
earther
that's the whole
experiment?
thing.
You're right, we need to get ahead of this. The globe trolls have gotten together and come up with an experiment, not really an experiment.
so the trip is they're all gonna meet in, like, you have to, like, pay for your ticket to you have to meet at an airport basically in Argentina, and then from there there's a flight, or I don't actually know, I can't remember.
I believe it's a flight to Antarctica. But anyway, then they go on, on a guided tour,
And they're going to spend like a week or something there.
Yeah, it's like 30 grand. It's like really 40 grand once you get all the stuff that you have to do. So it's expensive.
Yeah, it is expensive to do it in a way like that is expensive. You could probably just like YOLO it if you had a boat, but you'd probably die too.
Yeah,
so.
it's dangerous. So yeah, you could do it that way, but I wouldn't recommend it.
That particular strait from the end of Argentina to Antarctica, I can't remember what it's called, the thing that protrudes out, that's like some of the roughest ocean on the planet. Because all of those tidal forces we were talking about earlier have to basically funnel through that one little strait.
Yeah, so there's a guy, there's two things. There's a film of people, New Zealanders fishing, being redirected by, I think it's the Australian Navy. No, I'm not 100% sure. But, their boat is in an area where they're doing like naval training or something. And the destroyer comes by and tells them, you got to get out of this area. And the claim is these guys were going to Antarctica and they were turned around by the Flat Earth Defensive Army that protects Antarctica from
Did
from.
the people on the boat claim that, or did people
No,
claim
the people on
about-
the boat were nowhere near Antarctica. We're not going to Antarctica. Never made a claim about Antarctica. They were out fishing, and they are the ones who posted it. There is also a case where a guy who has illegally gone to Antarctica without, getting paperwork filled out and stuff like that, because it's but anyway, he's been to Antarctica a couple of times with his own boat, survived, but he got arrested for some other shenanigans that he was doing.
Really? I'm not sure that is illegal, actually. I think that details about how you get there might be illegal, but I don't think there's anybody with the authority to just be like, you're not allowed,
Right.
in full generality, to go to Antarctica. You might not be allowed to do things there, like set up a corporation.
You didn't have the proper permits and insurance to travel there, and it was from the originating. I don't know if it was the originating port or the originating country, but there was. I remember listening to this story, and the reason why the guy got in trouble is for not following the laws, and he was slapped on the wrist and told what the real laws were, and he went back and did it. So the first time he might have almost gotten away with saying, "Well, I didn't know that." There's not like a list of things to do when you leave port about like what if you happen to be going to Antarctica. But then he was told exactly what you're supposed to do, and then flaunted the law again. And one or two of his crewmen died because
Oh,
of
yeah,
his shenanigans
okay.
as well.
Well,
And so he was held responsible for it, and the Flurfs are all up in arms about it because, of course, they should be able to go in their
that
boat
might
and
be
do what they
about
want.
that. But at that point, like if these are crew people that if he's paying them, for example, that establishes like a responsibility that has completely nothing to do with Antarctica. Like if he went out and got
No,
him
if you
killed,
lost him in the Arctic, he would be in the same amount of trouble. And you can't just go and do whatever you want. I realize there's a bit of a Venn diagram that circles both Flurfs and what do you call those?
Sovereign
What are those-
citizens.
yeah.
Sovereign citizens. But the fact of the matter is, you can't operate a motor vehicle on the roads, public roads anyway, without insurance and paperwork and documentation. The same thing with airplanes. The same thing with boats, even small fishing boats. You need to have a license written on the side of them. It has to be readable. You can't use the radio, like VHF radios, CB radios are a little bit less controlled than they used to be. Ham radios. They're all things. When you're on the airways, you're supposed to be licensed and documented who you are.
I think I feel like a lot of those rules. Who enforces those rules in international waters?
Well, I don't know in international waters, but there are rules to be followed, and there are international rules, and
Yes, there are some of those. I agree. I think you might actually like it might be a rule that you have to have a flag of some sort. You have to have some sort of identifying signal if possible.
yeah,
But-
and it may also be that like you're in many cases we probably think of situations where people are in a country abroad where their home country saves them from political turmoil, for instance, and they tend to put out notices to citizens abroad and say, it's getting really tense in country X because they're having a civil war. Please come home now. Please get on the first airplane coming home that you can possibly get on. And then 300 of them stay behind until it's too late, and then expect the military from their country to come swooping into a war zone to take them away. And people get upset about that on both sides of it, and rightly so. But these people are doing the same thing. They're putting themselves in peril and expecting people to save them. And that's where this falls apart. And Flurf should not expect that people can do whatever the fuck they want, whenever the fuck they want. Because that's really what this comes down to is you have to take some personal responsibility. And if there are rules set to protect life and whatnot, you can take that along with your liberties.
Well, I think the important thing to note here is that the question as to whether or not it's impossible to have a 24-hour sun in Antarctica, because you would then think that the sun, how can it be anywhere else when it's also down in Antarctica if it's small and local? So there's a question as to whether or not any of the prevalent, flat Earth theories can accommodate that.
Yeah.
And
So
he's just bypassing all of that because, when you don't have a theory, you get to not have to explain anything, which is a pretty nice position as far as he's concerned.
Yeah, they I don't understand the flat Earth sun at all.
a key
But
point.
that's a good image you have here, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Keep talking.
Well, can I if you move your little green cursor around, I hope the audience can see that.
They can.
The sun is where your green cursor is for 24 hours a day for several weeks at the very least, shining on that area, right? And the area
Simultaneously, all at once. Yeah.
simultaneously all at once. And
But
I
not
live
here.
I live near that region there that you're circling at the top.
You
I
live
live in
right around there. There.
yeah, I live I often travel to places further north than where I live. So I haven't been super far north.
You're doxing him.
That's a lot.
Right?
I live in
He
this
lives vaguely near the Great Lakes, you guys.
Dude, I
The
live in
exact
there.
pixel that
I'm like-
tip of the arrow is on is where you are.
Yes, that's it right there.
I live over here.
Yeah, you live over there, and I live over there. Yeah, no. So I live in this country called Canada, and we're pretty far north. We're not the furthest north, but it's dark here most of the time. And here's an interesting thing: when I travel north, and I notice the sunset a lot because, this is something that people are tired of hearing me say, but the work I do involves doing oversized hauling, which there are limits to when you can do it, and you have to do it during daylight on most of the roads in Canada. And so when the sun starts to go down, I have to find a place to park. And so I notice what time it gets dark in the summer and the winter, etc. It gets dark extraordinarily early. It is dark when I get up in the morning and go to work. It is dark when I get to work. It is dark while I'm getting my truck ready. When the sun comes up, I then head out. And in the wintertime, I work less hours than the summertime.
Are you allowed to drive your truck without a load in the darkness?
It depends on the truck because some of the trucks I drive are oversized when they're empty.
Okay.
So it depends. And it depends on the highways. Certain of the very big highways I can do some work on. But it's something that it changes day to day, load to load.
Yeah.
But the vast majority of the time with an oversized load, I have to just stay off the road after dark, which is a smart thing to do. There are some, I won't get into the details, but I have a manual like bigger than the Holy Bible that tells me when I can do what I can do. But the point is that I pay attention to this, and I notice that the further north I go, the earlier it gets dark, and the longer it stays dark. And the closer I get to the winter, we call it the solstice, the winter solstice, the shorter that daylight period is. And and if I go well north of the 49th parallel, it's way darker for way longer than if I'm south of it, say. And so this is something that I find interesting is that they're now saying, and I've seen photographic evidence of this, I've seen video evidence of this, which they claim doesn't exist, that sun's going to be up the whole time down there.
Yep.
How is it that can happen? And how is it that when I go to the summertime, the further north I go, the longer the sun stays up?
Well, there are theories that there may be as many as 5 suns.
That's just obviously that's obvious at the level that Maya thinks all of this is totally obvious, and she's not wrong, but we all know what I mean, right? And
I think there might be billions of suns.
Well,
but Jaron is going, and Jaron is the one person who hasn't dodged and is a flat earther. And I really hope that he goes and sees the evidence and isn't a flat earther after that.
So who this guy is? He's a fairly prominent flat earther.
Yeah.
And he has said, if I go there and I see a 24-hour sun, then my conception of flat Earth has been falsified. Because this is the map, it's the azimuth equidistant, and for
he
a variety
agrees it's not possible.
Yeah, especially because you can stand in one place and see it go behind you.
Uh-huh.
The sun will go around, and it doesn't work on this map.
If the sun's over here and you're over here, it
Right.
has to be the case that if you can see the sun, these people can also see the sun, and
Right.
they can't.
Right.
And they know they can't because they all live up here
Right.
and know what's up in December.
So he's admitted that, and a lot of people gave him crap for,
Yeah.
acknowledging that he would. He didn't say he'd change his mind, but he said that his
he didn't quite.
conception of flat Earth would be falsified, and he would have to figure out where to go from there. So, and people are like, how dare you?
Yeah, how dare you have intellectual honesty? And Jaron's a really interesting case of someone in the flat Earth thing, and he's famous from what is it? There was like a movie on Netflix
behind the
Behind the
curve.
Behind the Curve, where he says interesting when he realizes that, like, he believes that
He did an experiment that
he did an experiment where he believed that it would prove or disprove the curvature, and he got something that wasn't quite what he was expecting, and he claims after the fact that he said interesting because it wasn't what he thought it would be. But
that's
but
fair.
that's fair enough, yeah. And just the word interesting is, I mean, it plays well in the video, but they're all upset about having been edited into a misrepresentation of their situation. But the fact of the matter,
That documentary I thought was very fair to them.
you know what, the fact that it gave them airtime at all was pretty fair to them, because the things they're saying don't make sense. And I think also the thanks Bob thing came from that too. I think, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one where they 15 degrees. So they were, it's a little bit troublesome that there's a rotation of 15 degrees per hour. But laser interferometry is not reliable, really. If you're,
That obviously, all of the people that on screen right now who operate laser interferometers are just a bunch of weasels.
They are. There's 5 weasels. Interestingly, not 5 suns, but 5 weasels in a trench coat. Although 5 weasels in a skin suit, looking somewhat Messiah-esque.
I think,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where they go to Antarctica and just stare and see if the sun sets. That's it. Seriously, because we've never thought of that in 10 years.
What's the point you're making? Have you thought of that? What was your conclusion? Was it that your conclusion that it was a thing that would actually be awesome, but you thought that you're never allowed to go to Antarctica, and therefore, like, you don't actually have to put up or shut up? Because I think that was your...
That's the one. Yes, that one.
Yeah.
He may be hand-wave dismissing the entire concept.
24-hour sun does not debunk flat Earth. He is displaying a graphic that elucidates precisely how a 24-hour sun in Antarctica debunks the flat Earth.
Yes.
Of this particular model. Which is the only model that has any support in the community.
24-hour sun in Antarctica does not debunk flat Earth. The problem is that, 1, no one gets into flat Earth because of the sun, and 2, if you did see the 24-hour sun, it would just show that there's something else in the sky.
Okay, what got people into flat Earth is completely irrelevant to the conclusions of this.
Flat Earth because of the sun, and 2, if you did see the 24-hour sun, it would just show that there's something else in the sky that we don't know about and you don't either. It doesn't...
But we do know. Sorry.
Yes, you would. It appears that not only do we know, but we can make predictions before anyone has ever gone down there. Apparently, as to where what elevations the sun will reach in the sky.
I took this photo 2 weeks ago when I went on a hike, and it's hard to see, but it's the exact thing that he's showing on screen.
A sundog, right?
Yeah, it's a sundog.
What do they call that? Yeah. People that live in cold regions see them somewhat frequently.
Yeah, like, for the reason I saw it was because I was up on a hill and there was clear viewing, so I was able to see into the parts of the atmosphere that are cold, because, I mean, it was like 60 degrees. It was fine. But we even know exactly what this is. It's actually pretty interesting, and I actually don't remember all the details of this explanation because it breaks a symmetry in multiple directions in a way that's not a priori obvious that would be the case. But it's something about how the crystals orient, and I think polarization too. I'm not sure.
I want to find a picture that I just found the other day that I think it is interesting too. What I'm thinking about these guys here. What do you call these
Okay,
guys?
so yeah,
Flurfs. Here we go. There's. I know I have this. I've got two interesting photos, but here it is. Here's one. Is this? Does this work?
No.
No.
not even a little bit.
Tiny little bit. Well, because I have. See, I took this picture of. You just have to trust me. Trust me, bro. It's the sun.
Is it of your magical giant kidneys behind you? Is that what happened to your kidney? Did it turn into that tree behind you?
Yeah. This is from a kidney project I'm doing that will come out in the fullness of time. But yes, I have only one kidney, which is remarkable when you look at the size of a man that I am. That there's only one organ in me. You'd think there'd be 7 kidneys in here, but I only have the one. Anyway, yeah, it led me down a strange path. So I have this picture of I took from the ferry boat going to Newfoundland.
Can you link it on Discord? I can show it.
Yeah, I might be. I can send it to you on Discord. Yeah.
I know. Yeah. Well,
our sun, it would just show that there's something else in the sky that we don't know about and you don't either. It doesn't address anything in physics like gravity. It doesn't address the lack of curvature with long-distance photography. And it literally has nothing to do with all the plot holes tied to every space program in history. So if the trolls...
The idea that the observation of a 24-hour sun in Antarctica as demonstrating, support for this typical, mainstream model, but it doesn't explain every detail of everything, so therefore it's useless. You don't even have a model, bro.
I mean, that you said it. That's an advantage. Can't be falsified
want to spend
if you have a model.
Yeah.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars, make a series of videos, all of which draw more attention to the flat earth theory without me lifting a finger. Outstanding. Seriously, where do you think we've gotten the attention so far? Flat earth theory. The trolls want to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, make a series of videos, all of which draw more attention to the flat earth theory without me lifting a finger.
By the way, a lot of the creators he just flashed on screen have done great work against flat earth. That's really hilarious to watch. This is one of their favorite talking points, is the fact that flights like this make more sense on the flat earth. They don't make more sense. They do make sense. The direct ones that do exist, though they're less common and more expensive, those don't make sense, though, because the direct ones would have to take this trajectory.
But there are direct flights from Australia to South America.
They do exist, yeah.
And they skim the coast of Antarctica.
Yeah, oftentimes they don't take the most direct line of sight path because they want to be able to stay in an area where if something goes wrong, they have a chance in hell of
landing on an airport.
Or at least being rescued by a boat, maybe.
Yeah, give them there's a lot and I remember learning about this when I went to flight school, that there's special rules that exist for making a plane and a flight, the crew rules and stuff that are necessary to do over water flights where you're X number of miles from land are different from the ones where you're relatively close to land. So if you could hug a coastline, you could fly your airplane cheaper with less people and less other equipment on board than you do if you're over a transoceanic flight, for instance, or even just going over a big section of the Great Lakes can make a difference.
Yeah.
Finger, outstanding. Seriously, where do you think we've gotten the attention so far? Much bigger trolls have been helping us for years, and you want to add to that? Fine by me, it's your money. Do your own research and see who's spreading hate and who is preaching love about the flat earth. Whatever, I'm done.
I never tell people to do their own research because they have to know how to do research first, and it's not it's something that takes. Some people might cotton to it without any, like, just naturally they're brilliant and they know exactly how to do their own research, but most people, like,
Yeah, they don't.
research methods is a class, right?
Yeah.
Well, for most people, do your own research just means watch a bunch of BitChute videos. I mean, you know,
Right. Yeah. People don't understand what is a valid source and what even where to go or why, why listening to somebody who said something that you like isn't, valid. You want to say, okay, I got this, and this is from the source. These are the people who measure this, and this is why you should look here. And if they're saying, well, I wanted to get it there, then you push back, like, point by point. You don't just tell them, like, well, obviously vaccines, are good for you. Go do your own research. Because, no.
I mean, like, assuming you're not actually like allergic to them, they generally are really good for your overall health.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not about that. It's really more about, like, people who, like, why people get into misinformation. And it's like, Vandy's saying, it's generally because they don't understand what valid sources are, or even how to begin to tell what is versus what's not.
Yeah.
What we all have, one of the things that we all have is we have that sort of reaction where somebody will say a thing and, like, maybe it's not our field and we don't know what's exactly up, and we're like, yeah, okay, that, like, kind of sounds like it makes sense. Then they say another thing, and you're like, yeah, okay, yeah, I follow that. And then they say that therefore aliens are controlling the Illuminati Jews in power, and you're like, wait, what? These are people that do not have the wait what reflex.
Yeah. That's the I did something really dumb about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I went on Google and I just Googled conspiracy theories because I just wanted to know. Congratulations, Jillian. And the number of conspiracy theories that there are is way more than I thought there were. And the intersectionality of, like, the words you hear out of people's mouths in flat earth, in, like, who shot JFK, the Twin Towers, all of it. Like, there's so many of the exact same talking points in all of them. And I had no idea, like, how much was hinged on the stonemasons, the Jews, and the Illuminati. But apparently they're all the same people. And it's infuriating to hear this. And I think also one of the strange things, can I say something really strange about myself that a lot of people don't know?
I mean,
You already talked about your kidney count, so
I did talk about my kidney count. One kidney, and there's another thing I have one of, which is I am a co-author on one scientific paper that's been published, which
that's
is not
so
something
cool.
expected with Truck Driver, but it's because I had specific knowledge about something. I talked to Dr. Tapp about this earlier today about how I didn't bring that up when I was talking to Mr. Slave, who has a number of unpublished papers
by some definition of the term.
of it, in that he wrote words down.
There are documents.
Yeah, he has documents. He has documents, not scientific papers. The way we think about it. In going through the process of developing that paper, I worked with a number of people with various degrees of education. Many of them with a lot more letters after their name than I have. I only have 4 letters after my name, ACMZ. Those are my licenses.
Oh, I don't know what that means.
It's okay. I sometimes throw that out there to say I have letters too. But my point is that getting a published paper in any scientific realm, no matter what it is, involves a fair amount of research, a fair amount of collaboration, usually with a bunch of people, usually quite learned people, and going through your own work over and over again to the point where you are ready to share it, and then going over it again 6 or 7 times, then putting it out for review, then taking people's commentary, looking at your work again, and hoping that someone's willing to put it out there, because it could be good work, but it might not be new enough work, or it may not be different enough work, or it may be a lot of things. Being published is not the only thing that makes a good work, but getting a published paper means you've done something novel, generally speaking, and that your peers being other people educated in that area, can go through it. And so I think it's important when people are putting down science and education that they understand what it is they're putting down. The paper that I worked on took over a year to put together and another 6 months to get to the publishing point. And it was relatively straightforward in a lot of ways.
Yeah, papers are a pain in the ass, man.
All right, so I do want to thank the 86% of the chat that came through, hit the like button, and does not only like Flat Sweat Takes.
I said I
job.
answered that I only like flat.
Good job.
We know. Omnivore, do you have anything coming up? Are you going to be anywhere this week?
I don't have anything specific. I'm usually hang out on Discord. Sometimes debate the shape of the Earth. We can put a link to the Discord channel. You can put it in there. I'm pretty sure. So
I did it earlier. Yeah, let me get another one because.
All right, is it your Discord channel or is it someone else's Discord channel? Because I may or may not need to vet that before I throw it out there.
Okay,
I would have invited Mordwan rather, not Sea Lion, but that's a fair point. That's a fair point. I'm a mod there.
as one of the original people there who's responsible for it being an open server instead of just for people looking for globe evidence. I'm very confident that I can including the chat there.
I would.
Okay. Well, since this is new news to me, I will talk to the Weasels, and if anybody coming back, it will definitely be in the box. So,
Right.
And Al, oh my God, who is healthy enough and got back to work this week.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Yeah, I
Way
went
to
back
go.
to work this week. Thank you. I was tired, but it was pretty good. It's pretty good. My
Right.
one lung is still partially damaged,
I'm
or
sorry to hear
it's
that.
either partially collapsed or permanently scarred. I will find out soon. But working is harder than it used to be, but it went all right. I worked nearly 37 hours of the
right.
last week, so like a half week.
Yeah. Well, wait,
week.
half week. I
Half
thought.
week.
Well, in the U.S., 40 is a week. So,
70 hours is normal in a trucking week.
God.
I worked
Okay.
that was 3 days of work.
Ouch.
Nice.
To be fair, if you include commutes for a lot of people in the U.S., their numbers jump closer to 70.
Yeah, so my commute would add, on average, an hour and a half to 2 hours to each one of those days.
Yeah.
Because I don't
Nice.
drive out of my own yard. I drive out of the yard of my employer.
Right.
But now, you want to know what it is I'm doing this week. I will also say I sometimes hang out with Omnivore and friends at Globe Gangsters and listen to nonsense. And sometimes I get pissed off and leave. And sometimes I just make fun of people in the side chat. I also hang out on YouTube as much as I can. I have been doing, as I've been ill, people have been seeing more of me, and that may or may not be a good thing. And I've been writing more and more songs, and to the great, wonderful anti-detriment of all of audiology, I am no longer singing my own songs. I'm having AI do it for me, and so now it's safe to listen to my.
Al has a gift with lyrics, in my opinion. There's a.
Your opinion isn't fair because you're like my best bud, but I try to be.
I also don't like music that much, right? So
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm trying to be. One of my songs talks about how I'm a lyrical and satirical gangster.
All right. Next week we'll be back on here with the Sinister Porpoise, and she is helping us go over a video where Joe Rogan is explaining to us what is the true mark of the beast. So,
What?
yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm going to have to find a new sign off. Because I don't know. I'm assuming everybody got out there and voted, and we gave it the old
Yeah.
Scouts try.
Yeah,
I
my
know,
side won. Woo! I'm so sorry. That's not true.
Wow,
Please don't-
too,
I mean,
too
it did in
soon.
your
Too
state.
soon. Like we've been going through a collective
Yeah, I know you're right. Me
grieving.
too.
It's
have-
been like that is not funny. I have to. On behalf of everyone, I have to
Help
say
me.
that.
It's been freaking me out, and I don't even live in that country.
Yeah, dude,
No,
it's
like
horrifying.
seriously, everybody I know was putting out like suicide hotline numbers. Like I way too soon to joke about that right now.
Yeah, no, definitely keep those numbers handy.
Yeah. So what I'm gonna, I don't know, until I find something more sciencey, I'm just gonna say resist and bring a friend, and we'll talk about that going forward. So we'll see you guys next week.